Good evening, everybody. The slide that you should be seeing now is a slide of me at a Wellspring walk. Those of you that attended the first seminar already have had a chance to hear a little bit about me. Those of you who are new, a warm welcome tonight for our men's series of speakers. You can, like I say, read the slide to find out a little bit about me. Especially for a few minutes late, let me move on. This is the second of two talks out of a total of, I believe, 5 in the men's speaker series. This is something that here at Wellspring London we're doing for the first time, and we're sharing this with wellspring.ca. So for those of you who are in London, in fact, there are people across the country who will be joining us and participating as onlookers in today's talk. Our first speaker a couple weeks ago was Dr. Glenn Bauman, who spoke a bit about what is cancer, the biology of cancer, and in particular about the most common types of cancers that affect men. So that was a very interesting talk. And for those of you who didn't have the opportunity to join us 2 weeks ago, that talk, as well as this one and the following ones, are being recorded, I should say, and will be available on the wellspring.ca website. So we'll send out some information when we know that is going to be available. And good. Today's presenter, who you should see live as well as the slide, is Todd Goold. As you can see, he is a registered social worker. And his in terms of what his day job is, he's with the Brain Tumour Foundation of Canada, where he is the information and support services manager. As well, he is an academic as an adjunct professor, a field education practice with King's University College, which is an affiliate college university of Western University of Western Ontario. So we're very glad to have Todd with us tonight, and this is my first time hearing Todd as well. I've been told he's a fantastic speaker, so I'm setting the bar high.
You are, Jeff. You are. Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully the start of everything doesn't measure up, because technology, right? Yeah.
And today, Mr. Goold will be talking to us. Do you prefer Mr. Goold or Todd?
Oh, Todd is fine. Yeah, let's keep it casual.
Okay. Todd will be talking to us today about men, particularly in their role of caregivers, looking after people who are important to them, who have cancer, and what that journey is like for them. And in particular, talk about the aspects of taking care of oneself as a man, being a caregiver for someone they care about having cancer. So Todd is going to speak to us now for somewhere between 35 to 45 minutes or so. And then afterwards, we're going to have a question and answer period. What I would encourage people to do is, if you have a question that comes up while you're listening, either save that question, write it down on a piece of paper, or even better yet, there's a chat function at the bottom of your screen, or depending on whether you have a tablet or a phone or what have you, somewhere on your screen you should see the little word chat. If you press that and you enter, you type in what your question is, I will have a chance at the end of the talk to phrase your question, to pose your question to Todd, and then he'll be able to answer you. Without further ado, I will let Todd take it away for this evening. Please go ahead.
Amazing. Thanks, Jeff, for the kind introduction. I really appreciate that. And thank you all for your patience while we figure out the technology. We have become reliant on it for the past 2 years, and it's wonderful when it works, and sometimes it doesn't. So just hopefully that was the first few bumps in the road, and we'll get moving on. But man, talk about anxiety and feeling that heart racing, and that, and I attribute that also to caregiving as well. Being a new caregiver and feeling that anxiety and loss, and not really sure how to go on. That is that's stressful too. So I'm really glad that all of you are here to take this time and hopefully learn some things. And if there are any questions, as Jeff said, please put them in the chat, and we'll do our best. To answer. Yeah. So why are we here? Well, we're here to talk about what is it like to be a caregiver, and what are those things that you might go through. So looking at these objectives, we're going to talk about caregiver burnouts, and we'll focus on that a little bit, but I don't want to focus too much on that because many of you may already know what that feels like, and it might be feeling some of those symptoms already. So we're really going to be looking at mostly throughout the night here is, how to support ourselves and how do we acknowledge the uncertainty that comes with the caregiving role, and then how do we validate those feelings that come with this change, and also how do we talk to our partner or our parents or our child about what's going on, and how do we develop that mutual understanding, and how can we create a better relationship with the person that we're caring for throughout this process. And then we'll go over the Bill of Rights of a caregiver, because that's really important, and finally give you really some concrete tools that'll help you support yourself in this role, because it is one that we need caregivers, and thank you for all the work you're doing. So, as I said, what caregiver burnout? It's a state of physical, emotional, and mental exhaustion. It can be accompanied by a change in attitude from positive and caring to negative or feeling unconcerned. And burnout can occur when caregivers don't get the help they need, or when they try to do more than they're able to do. And that's either physically, mentally as well, or even financially. It is a taxing job. The symptoms of caregiver burnout include lack of energy or fatigue and sleep problems, either sleeping too much or sleeping too little, change in eating habits, weight loss, weight gain, even withdrawing from social activities or losing the interest of those things that you once liked, neglecting your own physical and emotional needs, and really having that feeling that, boy, that this caregiving is controlling my life. You may feel even impatient at times, and for not only yourself, but also the person you're caring for, and feel irritable and argumentative, and even anxiety about the future, and it also leads to physical as well. So all that stuff, that's emotional, but physically, you can also experience headaches, stomach aches, and other physical problems, and lower resistance to illness. And these are just a few of the symptoms that caregiver burnout has. And as this saying on the screen, or on the slide says, we inherit this role, as the quote mentions. And sometimes we find it hard to know what to feel, let alone what can be done about it. And I hope by joining tonight, you get a little bit more clarity and understanding about how you can support yourself in this role. Yeah, so finding your way. Sometimes it's hard to find your way with this new identity. And being a caregiver, especially taking care of someone who has been diagnosed with cancer, you may feel unequipped throughout this journey. And with those feelings, you're going to experience some things that you're not quite sure what are normal. So, and we're pretty complicated creatures too, right? So, and with that, we're going to feel a range of emotions, and when times are difficult or a sudden change has happened, whether at home or at work, or it's normal to feel scared, to feel alone. Sometimes you're going to feel anger or that hopelessness, the resentment, and because this cancer diagnosis, it has impacted future plans, or maybe one day will impact future plans, and that causes frustration, and we are all human, and we are all going to feel a range of our emotions. Our emotions impact us, and of course they're going to impact our relationships with others. And with emotions, we're taught how to deal with our emotions from those who raised us, whether they're our parents, or our step-parents, or grandparents. And I invite you all just to think for a moment. How about your parents? How did they deal with those tough emotions or those tough situations? And then think about how do you deal with those tough emotions and those same feelings and those same situations? Do you react the same as your parents once did, or do you react differently? And there's no right or wrong answer with this, and we can choose how to process and react to those emotions. But first, it does really help to kind of identify, you know, what you're feeling, and you know, and that helps the process. And we need to be honest and really give ourselves permission to acknowledge and to validate, you know, those feelings and what we're feeling. I know it's not easy because we're men, but that's what we do. We feel, we're human beings, and we're taught how to deal with those feelings. And I hope it's okay if I share a story about my dad. This is how I kind of learned to deal with my feelings, because my dad, he wasn't really that comfortable in sharing his feelings. He was born in 1946, you know, at the very beginning of the baby boomers. And, you know, throughout my childhood, I learned very quickly that expressing emotions wasn't a thing that we should do. You know, there have been several times when my dad said to me, you know, it's okay to cry, but now it's not the time. And that's really how he taught me to deal with those emotions, was to bottle it. So all those feelings of whether they're anger and disappointment, frustration, shame, that is what we did, and that's what we had done, and you know, and we dealt with that until we couldn't deal with it anymore, until you came to a point where you just blew up, you know, and that's when my dad, I can always tell when he was getting upset or angry, because, you know, we could see it was coming. And when, you know, he became angry, he targeted either the closest person to him, or if we're at a family event or gathering, you know, he'd wait until some sort of socially appropriate time, but we would know he was upset or angry, because we were his kids. So we, you know, you kind of tiptoe around your dad, and I'm sure many of you are thinking, yeah, I know that feeling, because you knew that the reckoning was coming. That, you know, like, oh, you know, as soon as we get out of this situation, you know, we're going to hear it, and it impacted us, and it impacted me, and more importantly, it impacted our relationship with him. In March 2020, my dad was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. And of course, at that time, the world was in a global pandemic. So it was a time that none of us were used to. My older sister and my older brother and I, we were only permitted to see my dad in hospice, only on the day that he was actually going to complete MAID. And I can still remember we entered the room, and we could see how beautiful the space was filled, and it was really what he wanted. I mean, it was nature, and he was a really natural guy, and it was filled with calming music, and you know, I will be forever thankful to that hospice and to the palliative care services for that space and time they provided. But my siblings and I, we decided in advance to tell him what we needed to say, and we loved him, because, well, one, that was the only opportunity that we were given, but we weren't quite sure if it was going to be reciprocated or not, because that was my dad. So my dad was fully conscious and aware, and was capable of expressing emotions, but inside he was incapable. He just couldn't go there, because that is what he was taught. And instead of, you know, talking about the things that really need to be said, he looked at the weather, and he talked about my brother about certain investment opportunities, and he counted down the minutes as if he was waiting for a train until the doctor arrived, and those thoughts and feelings and emotions, they fell silent, and he died. And those things that were, you know, should have been said or could have been said, those should haves, would haves, as we all think about in those moments, they remained unsaid, and they will. And I share this story with you because, well, one, I don't blame my dad, because this is the way he was, and this is the way he was taught. But this is the way that I was too, and this is the way that I was taught. But there is help out there, and there is a way for all of us to learn, no matter how, you know, hard it is to express these emotions. We can acknowledge them, and we can feel them, and most importantly, we can learn from them. So I hope it's okay that I share that story with everybody. So one of the biggest things we need to understand our emotions is to validate them. You know, what we feel is meaningful, and it deserves validation. Historically, you know, us men, we, that I have in quotations, us men, well, we're taught not to be vulnerable. We're taught not to share. We're taught to you know, suck it up or rub some dirt on it, or all of those things, right? And unfortunately, sometimes, sharing our worries with people is often met by comments that, really aren't supportive or even detrimental, right? Where it's like, oh, don't be so sensitive, or there's no reason to be afraid of that, or, it's a waste of time worrying. Situation could have been worse. There's tons of them, right? What's wrong? Get over it. Sometimes when sharing our feelings with others too, that person might feel responsible for how we feel and think that we're personally attacking them by sharing our thoughts. And given this, no matter, no wonder why sometimes we choose not to share those feelings. So I would invite you all to think for a moment and just recall a situation where, you felt hurt, whether, this is recent or long ago, but where you felt hurt or sad or scared and angry, and what were those feelings like, and did you share them with someone else? Yeah, and if you did share them with someone else, how did they react? What was their response? Was it supportive, or did it make you feel, more hurt? Some people say insensitive things because they don't know what else to say. Right? Yeah, some example. There's tons of examples, but I lost my dog. I had her for 12 years, and then she was my best friend. Well, you can get a new dog. I had to stop work and look after my partner because she's really sick, and I'm scared. Well, at least you have a job to go back to. All of our plans are going to change. And I don't know how I'm going to make it through. Wow. I couldn't imagine. And if you want to tell me something, that's okay. It's okay. Notice the difference in that last response. When a person isn't validated, usually the person is trying to fix the problem, and people, we don't want to be fixed. We want to be heard. Now, people do not want to be fixed. They want to be heard. Yeah, and this is even with our partners. My partner, she tells me this all the time, and I'm slow because I'm just not a good learner. And she tells me, I don't really want to be fixed. I just need you to listen. And we need to share and validate these feelings. And that's one of those things that I've learned from her is that just, we don't need to know all the answers. All we need to do is listen. So when you're sharing your feelings with others, make sure when it's the person really understands and takes that time to listen. Whether it's a close family member or friend. I've had many caregivers say to me, and maybe you're thinking of this now, oh, I don't want to burden my partner with telling them that I'm feeling overwhelmed, or that I'm feeling worried, or I'm feeling scared. And all those are really, they're feelings that, those are good feelings. Those are normal feelings that everyone has had. Well, whether it's your partner or someone, your parent, or someone you've had with a close relationship for some time, they probably already know. I don't know many people that are really good at hiding something from a person who knows them best, especially if you see this person every day. Or if you've been a part of this person's life for several years, believe you me, they already know what you're feeling, that you're feeling something, right? They just don't know what it is. And sometimes our loved ones, or the people close to us, or the ones that we're caring for, they may go to the worst case scenarios because, when their partner isn't really telling them how they're feeling, sometimes those insecurities, they come through. And sometimes not knowing, brings that out and can cause a whole other problems and concerns. So it really is best to be transparent and just be authentic and use, don't memorize words and phrases, just use the language that really comes to you and tell your emotional truth, I would say, I guess. Yeah, so it is, in my experience, it's really best to find some courage and perhaps share a little vulnerability and start a conversation. So understanding, when you start to share your feelings, your partner may start sharing with you as well. And the end goal with this is really to gain a mutual understanding. Relationships, they can suffer when people don't discuss problems that really have no easy or obvious solution. And that lack of discussion can lead to feelings of emotional distance, or even feelings, or sorry, even lack of intimacy, along with many other feelings. So it's really, take that time with your partner or with your parent or whoever you're caregiving for, and say, hey, how is this cancer diagnosis going to impact us, or how would you want treatment? What values are most important to you, or what values are most important to us? The quality of life or quantity of life? Especially thinking of my work, I talk to people who are diagnosed with brain tumors, and if they're diagnosed with brain cancer, that is usually a life-limiting diagnosis. And of course, with that, there's always some outliers, but that is a diagnosis that is going to shorten your life in some way or another, and really to gain that mutual understanding is something that really helps, especially if your time is limited. How do you want to spend this time? What is really meaningful for you? Or how do you see my role as a caregiver? What does care look like for you? And what is the best care that I can provide? And after you've listened to one another, sharing your thoughts and feelings, reflect on what was said. And even show that you understand by you can rephrase your sentences, or just say, I appreciate you shared that with me. Or, it's perfectly natural to feel this way. This makes sense. All those phrases, they're meaningful, but they're a way to say, I heard you and I understand. I see it's hurting. Or just simply, I'm here with you. Or, I can see you're terrified about this upcoming appointment. Do you want to talk about it? As again, people want to be heard. They don't want to be fixed. And as you and your partner feel more and more understood, this will likely bring you both a sense of relief. What do you need right now? It just opens up that dialogue even more. How can I support you in this situation? So mutual understanding, it is a very important topic, and yeah, it's something that I tell people who call and talk to me every day. That's one of the things that we need to develop is that mutual understanding, and what is the values that you want to see moving forward, or those shared values. So what isn't validation? And this is important too, because validation is not giving up your own experience, right? It's seeing another person's perceived reality and validating their feelings. And it does not mean giving up your own perceived reality. We can hold space for people and notice differences of opinions or polarities. But that same situation can cause some feelings or reactions in you and in that other person. So there, of course, right now, there's all sorts of different polarities and different reactions that are happening in this country. And by listening to someone, it doesn't mean you agree with them. And both of those feelings, no matter what spectrum you sit on, they're both realities for those people. Although they might be opposing realities, we can still have our feelings and share our experiences and understand those feelings and those experiences of her, but it does not mean we have to agree with them. So agreeing with the other. So some people are afraid that validation means agreeing to everything the other person says. And validation does not mean agreeing with simply that, again, you see the other person's concern for what it is and what the other person is feeling at the moment. For example, your friend says, I feel like no one loves me, you know, you don't answer, yeah, no one loves you, because that wouldn't be supportive. It might be true depending on your friend, but it wouldn't be supportive. So, you know, you probably say something like, oh, I see that you feel that way, and I know this topic is important to you, and you know, it's okay to talk about it. So again, you don't need to agree with the other, especially if it's something that is just untrue, or you know, those big statements. No one loves me. Well, that can't be true. Then acceptance of harmful behavior. You know, thinking about validating the feelings of a child or an adult that you know, does not mean that any behavior is allowed. You can validate how other person feels, but that doesn't mean that you approve their actions. For example, if someone hurts another person while being angry, you can explain how, despite being angry, it's not okay to behave like that and hurt others. Of course, your feelings and well-being is also important in the feelings and reactions of others. But does not mean that you need to abandon your own needs by listening to someone or by validating them. And if they are abusive, no one has to put up with that and just get yourself out of that situation. Yeah, we don't let anyone hurt ourselves, even though their feelings are valid. It doesn't matter. No one does that. And finally, just taking pity on someone. When validating emotions and feelings, we should not pity that other person. And depending on the situation, you can, of course, express your regret and sadness for when something terrible has happened to the other person, but you don't say, I'm sorry you feel like that, because it means that you just feel sorry for the person. And of course, we want to avoid phrases like, oh, poor you, or things like that happen. Instead, just send a message of this. You know, taking pity on someone generally does not really support that person. And I would just more or less say, you know, I'm sorry you feel that way, and you know, I can assure you what you're speaking of is not true. Yeah. Or of course, know the limits of your of this relationship, or the limits of your expertise, and if that person needs help, or if you're unable to offer that person any advice, it's okay just say, you know what, I'm just glad I'm here to listen, but I really think that that you need to talk to somebody because this is out of my area of expertise, or out of my area of how I can help, and I just really want to connect you with some help and support. So we're going to talk a little bit about online tools and supports for caregivers. So this is really the meat and potatoes, I guess, or those tangible things, part of the presentation that you can really bring home and use. And I can share the slides, and I can really have these apps, I guess, connected to you, because they really do help. Post Hope is a great app that can share your story, you know, and not only does it share your story, but it offers a personalized and safe place to kind of, you know, share updates of how someone's doing. You know, if you're caregiving for someone and you're talking to several people throughout the day, well, saying that story, you know, once is okay and twice is okay. But if you're sharing that same story 5 or 6 times a day, well, sometimes it's better to post it. So you can, this Post Hope is a great tool, and it's free. And you can choose your level of privacy too. And of course, you choose who follows you, and those people will get notified whether you add a story or add videos or anything to your journal, and it can publish to any device as well. And with this Post Hope, there is you know, fundraising element to it too, because you know, whether someone needs to stop work or there's a certain treatment that is covered, well, this allows you to do that as well. And of course, there's no platform fees or anything like that, and it does do direct deposit. So if you do find yourself in need, and caregiving, of course, is something that is expensive, because there's a lot of unforeseeable bills. Post Hope might be something that you might want to look into, and also it allows you to rally support from friends too, and family, and you can organize meals and schedule rides and stuff like that. So it is really tangible support. Caring Bridge is also another free online tool, and again, it can share health updates. And it does an easy way to communicate the health news to the family and friends. and it's all in that one place. And then finally, helping hands. Again, it offers you to coordinate help, communicate updates, receive that emotional support. And they also, with this one too, you can schedule meals and deliveries and rides to appointments. And what I like about this one, the helping hands last one too, you can schedule visiting hours. So if there's a time in the hour where you really don't want to other people to visit or stop by, you can let people know. And I kind of like that, because sometimes you want to protect that time. That time is sacred, right? And you want to protect it. And this allows that to do it as well. And Caregiver Bill of Rights. And this is something probably isn't new for any of you, but if you find yourself spending a lot of time looking after someone, it's pretty easy to ignore the toll that it's taking on you, right? And routinely placing someone else's needs ahead of your own can have a negative impact on your physical and emotional health, right? And it can make you less of an effective caregiver. So the Caregiver Rights is just really an empathic reminder that the importance of acknowledging your own needs when you're caring for someone else with a significant illness or disability, especially if it's for an extended period of time. It's meant to be looked at and read every day, and you can personalize it if you want by adding your own statements. And a lot of these sayings have been widely adopted by many organizations who provide support. But talking about statements you can add, there's also these self-care plans, and the links are below to access this, and these plans are free. But it's proven that engaging in a self-care routine has been proven to reduce and eliminate anxiety and depression. Of course, reduces stress, but it also improves concentration, and it minimizes the frustration and anger. Increases happiness, improves energy. So there's a lot. And again, the link there that I'm kind of reading these notes from, it is a peer-reviewed article, and I hope you do take the time to create a self-care plan, because all those things sound pretty good. Burning the candle at both ends, it comes with consequences, right? And it's not limited to burnout, but you're also looking at depression, anxiety, and resentment, and a whole other host of negative implications. So just engaging in a self-care routine, it is proven, and it does reduce the stress and depression and all that stuff, and anxiety, and it's even thinking about a physical health perspective, it reduces the chance of heart disease, stroke, and cancer. And even connecting with the higher power, whether you want to do my higher power is getting out into nature and connecting with nature, and others is some religious activities, whatever that is, to whatever you need to keep yourself in tune with that higher power, or realize what is meaning in life. It's very important to do. So and keeping these self-care activities in your regular routine, like going out for walks or socializing with friends, doing that stuff, it really gives your body and mind a time to kind of reset and rejuvenate, and so you can kind of help yourself reduce those symptoms of stress and anxiety. So you can really see how those things do help, and it leads caregivers who are identifying their own needs, right? So you can see in Iggy's plan here, that is all marked up, that they're looking at those mental, physical, and spiritual needs, and what that self or that person really needs. And it's important, that people who provide support to others, that they have a support system themselves, and they allow themselves to have goals, and allow themselves to have things that they wish to accomplish, because it's important. And we're coming to the end. Yeah. So I hope I didn't talk too long, but the link above, or too long, too short, or too fast. Finally, the link above. This link above provides an overview of all the federal and provincial government programs that are available to caregivers in Canada. So no matter where you are, it'll just say, hey, I'm from Ontario, and this is my, you input your information, and it'll kind of let you know what programs are available for you, financial programs. So I hope that's helpful as well. And of course, if there are any questions or concerns, you know, my contact information will be on the slide. So that's it. You know, I just really want to, before I take it over to Jeff, I just really want to thank everyone for listening and taking the time again to connect with us. And I always, brain tumor survivors always say to me, hey, how do you deal with insecurity? Because, you know, being a caregiver and being diagnosed with a chronic illness, it kind of brings that feeling of insecurity. And I've been doing this work since 2015, and my perspective on this has changed a bit, but I kind of just, at first I asked them, well, how forthcoming do you want me to be? And usually they say, well, I just really want to, I really want to know. And I said, well, life is insecure, you know, and there is no security here. You know, I know I'm here right now, and I know that one day the sun will rise and I will not be here. But I know if I can find a way to enjoy the passage of time, and while doing this, if I can reduce the suffering of others, then I think that would be a life well lived. And I hope that resonates with you as well, because that there is no big mystery to the secret of life. The secret of life is just enjoy the passage of time. And if you can do that, and if you can reduce the suffering of others as well, you know, we're doing all right. Yeah. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate it, and I appreciate you all listening to me. And yeah, are there any questions, Jeff?